What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Brave and Faithful podcast. Today, I have with me a military spouse of a National Guardsman veteran. She's also a professor at the Miami University in Ohio. She's also the director for the Dayton and Southwestern Ohio chapter for the Blue Star Families organization, Dr. Geri Maples. What's going on, Dr. Maples?
Not too much today. But here in Ohio, it's raining and we just opened our pool today, so excited about that. But doing lots of things with our military families as well. But today's kind of a calm day.
Awesome. So, I mentioned you're the director for Dayton for the Blue Star Family chapter in Dayton in Southwestern Ohio. Before we go into that, I also mentioned that you're a military spouse. Can you just talk to our audience a little bit about, your husband served in the National Guard, how long he served for, and what that service was like?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for asking, because that was a big part of our life. I married my husband at the age of 20. And I always tease him because he's 10 years older than me. But I was new to that way of life. And at that time, when it was we were just coming out of the first Gulf War. It was 1991. We actually got married, so it was pretty just out of that era, out of that period. And I often say that we lived in two eras of service, pre and post 9/11. Pre 9/11 was a lot different. We it's funny because I mentioned I was younger. I was 20. Um, you know, um, During that time, when we first got married, my husband, that's really kind of all he had was his National Guard. And I say that because during that time, he was unemployed when we got married. We moved from our little studio apartment and with his parents literally 2 days after we got married. And we often say that was our honeymoon, those 2 days in our studio apartment. But not long after we got married, I ended up getting pregnant. We lost that child, unfortunately, 3 months into a pregnancy. And at that time, he was going, I called him radar because he was going from unit to unit, doing paperwork and sending units on, AT and things like that. And I asked him to stay home after we knew we were going to lose the baby. I asked him to stay home on that drill weekend, and he was told no. And being new to this new military life, I was thinking, how in the world could they tell him no? And it was really a shock. So I had to learn really quickly that there was our life and their way of life. And like I said, that was pre 9/11 period. Employers didn't want to hire him. There was this mindset of, oh wow, you're gonna leave for 1 month, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. I don't want to deal with that. I need somebody here all the time. And that's just too difficult for us. So the National Guard is really all he had. Over the next few years, we ended up having our son and daughter, and there was many times where we had to move in with mom and dad, or then we'd get to move out. We'd get enough money to move out. But one thing I can tell you is those were the best days of our life. We didn't know it then, but those were the best days of our life. Recently, I had an opportunity with Blue Star Families to go down to his guard unit that we were part of, and for all those years. And I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, my daughter took her first ever steps right there. or, you know, my son got sick walking through that door. So many memories just flourished and you know, came back to mind, and I felt at home. And you know, it was great, you know, just kind of remembering that those were, even though we struggled financially, that unit was always there to take care of us. You know, if we needed money for the holidays, he would pull extra duty. Um, I don't know how in the world we bought everybody presents for $200, but somehow we did. Um, but I miss it. I miss it. And you know, we endured things like went to Panama for 2 weeks. Um, we were really excited because we were like, oh wow, we get to see the Panama Canal with him, even though it's just through pictures. You know, we got to go to the Olympics during 1996 Olympics and serve alongside, you know, those folks down there, other officials and things like that. So we had exciting times, but you know, there was also, you know, challenging times. You know, but I miss it.
So you mentioned pre and post 9/11. You talked about you know, the times before 9/11. Talk to us a little bit about your guys' service after 9/11, and how was that
Yes.
like? How life changing was that?
Yeah. Yeah. So Robert, my husband Robert, he was actually out when 9/11 happened, and he was working for he was hospital security. That was his civilian job, hospital security. In the military, he was military police officer. He actually had got out in 2000, and so he was out, he wasn't even out a year when 9/11 happened.
Mm.
And the day after 9/11, he went to work like normal. And he knew in his mind that he had to do something. When he got to work, they actually were laying off employees that day. They had planned to lay off employees before, and they went ahead with it despite what happened. And he came home, knocked on the door. I opened the door, and he said, I got laid off.
This was the day
And
after 9/11.
the day after 9/11.
Yeah.
Yep. And and he said, I'm going down to I'm going down to the armory. And I think he was going to do that anyway.
Hmm.
You know, because he felt he needed to. But he went down to the armory and re-enlisted. His unit actually was because they were military police, so they had to respond to the airports and were put on duty to the airports. Um, and he worked down there for several weeks. Um, and and then after that, he, you know, obviously got deployed to Iraq. Just about a year and a half later or so. And he was gone. His unit was gone for a total of 19 months. Um, and I remember the frustration of, you know, oh, we're gonna come home at this time, or you know, oh, we're gonna come home at this time. And at that point, during that time, in Iraq, at that point, the National Guard could only be held for 24 months. Um, and so I figured, you know what, we'll just see you in February of 2025. You know, I mean, that's kind of what we were thinking at that point. But it just was deployment after, you know, or just delay after delay. And finally they got to come home. They left in February of 03. They came home in September of 04. Right after that, he was on stop loss, so he was out when he came home.
Okay.
And he did go back in, but it wasn't the right time. They got deployed to Katrina on the anniversary of their 1 year anniversary of coming home. And after that, he was already having issues in Iraq, and that was, it was just too difficult after that, and he got out. So
So he did a deployment in Iraq totaling about, you said, 19 months or so.
mhm.
Came back, was on stop loss, and was deployed during Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, he went back in. He signed back up in April, I believe, of
Mm.
2020 or of 2005. Um,
And then
and
got out soon after that.
he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did mention you were a caregiver. So basically, you're a
Mhm.
caregiver for your husband. Um,
Yes.
can you just explain, tell us, kind of like the background and how that led to you being a caregiver?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, Robert has invisible wounds. Um, a lot of his things are, you know, more PTSD, TBI. So for your viewers, that's post traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury. But he
Mm.
also has a lot of other complications. I always tell him that he's an overachiever because when he does something, he's got to do it better than everybody else. So he has two aneurysms instead of one in
Wow.
his aorta. Those are most likely related to high blood pressure from PTSD and things like that. So we have to monitor those. Um, and eventually those will have to be repaired. So instead of having Kevlar on his head, he'll have Kevlar in his heart. So
Oh,
that
wow.
we try to make light of things around here. uh, because if we didn't, we would just be beside ourselves. But he has a lot of things that folks can't see, and unless you're here with him day in and day out, you really don't notice them. But every day is a challenge. But he's so brave because every day he gets up and he puts his feet on the floor. And despite, asking himself, what is going to hurt today? What's going to bother me today? He still goes on. Um, and I attribute that to his resiliency and his bravery.
Yeah.
And you know, every day is different. Some days are good, some days are bad. I mentioned earlier that we opened our pool today. He was so excited. We just moved into our house. First time we moved in 16 years, and we were so excited to get to open our pool, and we got that for him. And our two kids. Both our kids have incurable, invisible illnesses as well. So life is always adventurous around here.
Mm.
What hospital are we going to? What doctor's appointment do we have to go to today? But the pool was a sense of, that's mine, and I can go out and try to enjoy myself, and health benefits too, right?
So it's like
Well,
therapy, sort of.
the liner was messed up, and it really turned his day upside down. Something that might be insignificant to someone else
Right.
turned his day completely upside down. What turned out to be an exciting day was a PTSD trigger day.
Mm.
And so that's just to give you an idea of how things can turn in a moment, right? It was complete frustration. Like, why do I have creases in my pool? Why is it coming off on the side? And really just took the whole excitement out of the day. Something as simple as a piece of mail can do that. And so I'm always on guard, trying to remove those triggers.
Right.
And I've learned really quickly how to respond to those. And turn his mindset somewhere else. You almost have to be an artist to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it just, it's hard. It's coping with something like that, and being uncertain, feeling a day of uncertainty every day is challenging. It's just really challenging.
Yeah, in a sense, you're kind of like well, I don't want to say like, a deployment, but you're like, you have a certain mission, right? Like you mentioned about like keeping, making sure that there's things that, if there's things that trigger him, that, keep
Yeah.
those away and things like that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. We have we have the postmaster's app to know what mail is coming that
uh,
day.
yeah.
And it might seem odd to some, like, but I have to have that because I'll scan it and I'll say, oh no, this is coming today. What could this be? Could this
Mm,
trigger something? And I'll have to, tell my son or daughter, hey, you might want to get the mail in today. Don't let dad get the mail in today. I need to see that first. Right. I mean, those are real life things.
yeah.
Um, and if we are going somewhere, like sometimes he'll go to the Cleveland Clinic for appointments and things like that. Those take at least a week in advance to plan. What time are we going to get up? What time do we need to leave? And no matter what time we tell him, I say, let's go to bed at this time, he still doesn't sleep the night before. So he's up all day for 24, 48 hours
Mm.
just to go to a trip to the Cleveland Clinic. So, um, it's always, you try to plan, but no matter what you do, something's gonna go awry.
So, you talked about, being a caregiver. So during this time also, are you as I mentioned, you're a professor at the university. Do you do that as well? And then when you're there, um, how does that look like as far as like who's with your husband?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't physically go to the university. I teach
Okay.
online.
Okay.
Um everything I do is online. So it makes it a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and how long have you been, for just for our audience to know, how long have you been a caregiver for your husband?
17 and a half years.
Wow. And then
Yeah.
you also mentioned two kids with
Yeah.
you mentioned illnesses or
Yeah, they have both of them have a illness called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. We call it POTS. So
okay.
um, they both have that. It falls under the dysautonomia umbrella. Um, so um, they actually got sick. One of them, my son, got sick in 2018 at the end of the year, in October, and my daughter fell ill with it in January of 2019. So it just came on all of a sudden, and changed the landscape of their life. So, but I have to say, they're resilient, just like their dad. So couldn't be more proud of them.
So, Dr. Maples, when do you get a break? When this it seems like you just have a lot on your shoulders, right? With your two
Yeah,
kids and obviously being a caregiver for your husband. When do
yeah,
you like find time for yourself to just
yeah.
relax and just, find
That's a
time for
really
you?
great question. That's a really great question. A lot of people ask me that. I think the best way to answer that is through my work. Uh, my work is my break, and
Yeah.
that might seem really odd, but I love to advocate for others, and I want others to know that, hey, you know what, you're not alone on this caregiving journey or this military journey. You're not alone. um and so, just the other about 2 weeks ago, I got the opportunity to take a group of military families to the Dayton Dragons baseball game. For those that don't know, that is a little minor league team to the Reds here, in southwestern Ohio, and they are actually having a great season, unlike the Reds. They're actually the best. They got the best record, I think. But um, that's my self care. Going out and having the opportunity to take those families to the game for a few hours. and I love the opportunity to be able to do that. And during that time, I have my phone on me. I have backup people, so they know if Robert calls and I have to leave, then there's a plan in place.
Right.
And has that happened before? Absolutely. Um, you know, um, but we have a system at our house. So there's a we have a color code system that I developed. So if we have a green day, that's a pretty good day. If we have a red day, I don't go anywhere. Um, and the in between is really kind of a play it by ear,
Mm.
right? That's when I know that if the phone rings and it's him and I can't answer, if he knows to call me right back, and if I see that he's calling me right back, I take a moment to answer it and see what's going on. And so we have a system, and it's worked,
Yeah.
but it's took a long time to get there.
Right.
And you know, it's not every day is not easy. There are days when I feel like, oh,
Right.
I just can't no more. And though at those times I just put my headphones on and listen to Rob Thomas or John Mayer and watch videos. Lately it's the Killers. So you know I go through stages.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was also reading for, when you were pursuing your doctorate's, your dissertation, right?
Yes.
You wrote Surviving the Invisible Wounds of War as Told by the Unsung Heroes.
Hmm.
Can you explain to our audience a little bit about that and what was
Yeah.
like, decision in writing this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was blessed with the opportunity to work at Union Institute University for about 3 years, and I remember when I first got hired, my boss told me that I needed to get my doctorate degree, and
Mm.
I was like, no way, like I can't do that. That's not even possible. But she encouraged me to have faith in myself and that it was possible. And when I first started that journey, I was going to write all about veteran students. That's what I was going to write about. Well, to anybody out there going for their doctorate, please don't even try to have what you're gonna write about when you first start, because it's not it. that's that's
Right.
that's just not it, right? And so I was sitting in class one day. We had this was an online program, but we had in-person residencies twice a year. So one of those residencies, one of my colleagues in cohort 19, so I gotta give a shout out to them, cohort 19, they'll know who they are. But we were sitting in this class, and um, we were talking about writing a scholarly personal narrative. And a scholarly personal narrative is you talk about your experiences, and you write about it alongside other folks who might have a similar narrative to you. And I wrote about my caregiving journey, and what that was like. I wrote about how my son loved to play baseball, and when he couldn't when his dad wasn't going to the games because of his symptoms and his post-traumatic stress and all that, he stopped because his dad wasn't there. I talked about these things. I talked about what that was like, raising two kids whose dad had these invisible wounds. And I was telling this to my colleague, and she was like, Geri, you have to tell your story.
Mm.
Like, you have to tell your story. You have a powerful story, and there's other people out there who are going through the same things that you are. So I got with my committee chair, and she said, Geri, you got to write an autoethnography. And I had no idea what an autoethnography was, so she had to explain that to me.
Okay, yeah, I was like, what was that?
So for those who are out there saying, what is an autoethnography? I will tell you. You write your narrative alongside other individuals who have a similar story. So what I did was I interviewed 5 other military caregivers who were either National Guard or Reserve spouses, who were seeking higher education, who had children that were, in school and enduring challenges like my 2 children. Um, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation now has a label for those children. They're called hidden helpers, and that's exactly what my 2 kids were, hidden helpers. They were navigating school while their dad was going to the VA in the middle of the night or to the ER in the middle of the night and wondering, how in the world am I going to get to school tomorrow because my mom has my dad at the ER? Or they're really tired when they get there, or their mind is you know they're physically at school but their mind is at home. The and so I wrote about our stories, and I went all the way back to my own childhood and asked myself, how in the world can I do this? How can I get a PhD? How can I be a caregiver to my husband, raise 2 kids, work? How do I do this? Where in the world did I get the ability to do this? And I realized in writing my narrative that it was because I grew up the youngest of a mom who was a single mom, worked 6 days a week and twice on Saturday. So she worked from 7 a.m. till 1 or 2 in the morning on Sundays. Wore holes in her shoes because she would buy us stuff instead of buying herself something. Went my whole sophomore year of high school without even having a car, and being bullied because I lived in the projects. We lived in the projects in a small little town of 10,000 people. And, I had people who would literally punch me because I lived in the projects, and I was like writing this scholarly narrative thinking, thank you for putting me through this.
Yeah.
Because now I am who I am today, right?
Yeah, it's made you who you are.
They made me who I was, and so thank you to all those people who made me who I was, because my life was not easy. And thank you to my mom. Thank
Right.
you to her for showing me that I can be strong and that I can be courageous throughout adversity, right? My mom is amazing. She worked and waited tables till she was 81 years old.
Wow.
And people love her. And I can't take her anywhere without somebody stopping her to talk to her. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I endured that, because it made me the person that I am today.
Right.
And I can deal with, anything that life throws at me. I'm not going to say that I don't get sad, and that there's not times where you'll find me crying in the bathroom, because those do happen, right? Robert was in the hospital a couple years ago, and he has AFib, so they had to shock him back into rhythm, and the plumbing acted up in the bathroom, and I was like, I can't do this. What I can't do this, and I was literally crying in the middle of our bathroom. But you know what? I got it out, and then I was like, what am I doing? I'm crying in the middle of the bathroom. It's just a plumbing. Where do I turn the sink off? but those things happen. So,
Right.
we are human. There are times when you break down. But I have to say, thank goodness to my other caregivers, because we are a community and we talk to each other and we build each other up, and I'm grateful for them.
So, with writing that dissertation, have you been able to connect with other caregivers as well,
Yeah.
uh, that are military caregivers or just caregivers specifically?
Yeah, so military caregivers, there are other caregivers out in the community that we do connect, that I do have some connection with. But for the most part, we're, military caregivers.
Okay.
We have a community online, and we all, go to each other when we have periods where we're crying in the bathroom,
Yeah, yeah.
or whenever, we build each other up. One of the things I found in my research, writing my dissertation, is that we are a community, and it doesn't matter where we are. We could be in California or Ohio. It doesn't matter. We all pretty much know the same people.
Mm.
It's kind of like that 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, right? We
Yeah.
if I don't know someone, someone knows someone, right? But we all help each other, and we build each other up, and I love the fact that we can do that. Um, you know, because we are a team and we're in this together. But one of the things I will tell you is there's other caregivers out there that don't know they're a caregiver, and I think it's important to get that message. If you're taking your spouse or your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister to VA appointments, or you're managing their medication, or you're helping them with their bills, you're a caregiver.
Mm.
and 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 it's okay to be a caregiver. It's okay to call yourself one. Don't ever think that you're, a barrier to anyone, because those things happen too. And through my dissertation, I found that it's important for them to know that, you can do things. You just have to do them in a different way, right? And don't ever think that it's not okay to call yourself a caregiver. I think sometimes they don't want to self-identify because they see it as a stigma, and it's not a stigma. It's a strength.
Mm.
And that's one of the things that I found through through my research is, that we are a community, and we do help each other. We're there for each other, and we're leaders. We're leaders in our own communities, and sometimes I don't think we know that either. So
So, Dr. Maples, what would you say has been the rewarding or the most rewarding moment or experience you've had since, you've connected with other caregivers? And then maybe just
mhm,
in your personal experience as a caregiver to your husband, what would that
yeah,
be?
yeah. So I think one of the things I tell my students is there's opportunity in every setback, and don't and I always tell them, don't ever forget that. Find something positive that comes out of something negative. And for me, um, it's been the fact that I've met these amazing people, these
Right.
amazing caregivers who are just, just so awesome. And I didn't go get my doctorate degree for me. I didn't do it for me. I did it for them. I did it so that I could be a voice for those who don't feel that they have the ability to use their own voice.
Mm.
And on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, I get to go, um, testify against, or I get to go testify at the Ohio House. One of the things that I promised, Senator Dole, in my application, when you apply to be a Dole caregiver, or Dole Fellow, you say, what are your goals? What do you want to do? And you write her a letter. And I wrote her, and in my letter I said that I wanted to make it possible for caregivers in the state of Ohio to go to school for free. And so on Tuesday, I get to go testify in support of House Bill 569 that I helped draft, that will allow Ohio caregivers that qualify to go to school at any state university for free.
Mm.
And I think that's been the most rewarding thing, is just being able to open doors for other caregivers, and so that they aren't in debt like I am, because I'm in debt. but but that's okay. I it's okay. I'll pay it back somehow. But it's just, for that reason, that I get to do that for them, so that I can pave the way for others.
Right.
Because unfortunately, there's going to be others. There's future caregivers out there, and if I can help make a difference for them, then it's all worth it.
That's awesome.
And then for me personally, I think the biggest thing, and he often doesn't believe it, but I think the biggest thing is, despite whatever challenges are set forth each day, I get to watch Robert get up every day and put his feet on the floor, and watch him battle through the day. And it's not easy,
Mm.
but at the end of the day, we go to bed and he's on his iPad and I'm on my iPad, and we're safe. And it's just, and he loves to watch things on YouTube. And he won't admit it, but there's times I hear him laugh, and that's rewarding to me.
Mm.
Just to know that we made it another day. And life isn't easy. But he does it. So, and I
Yes.
tell him that, but he don't listen.
Well, it seems like, just those little things, right? It's those little things that matter, like just
Yeah,
a
it
smile and
really
a
is.
laugh here and there. It's just
Yeah.
that's what makes life worthwhile, I guess.
Yes. It's funny because every once in a while we'll get a smile out of him. We were getting our 30th anniversary wedding, our 30th anniversary wedding photos done last November. And Lauren, the little girl who takes our photos, she did our 25-year ones too, and she always tries to get him to smile. And we it's hard, but there are a couple in there where he did smile. So whenever we can capture that,
Right.
it's a win for us.
That's awesome. So Dr. Maples, I did mention in the beginning you are a chapter director for Blue Star Families.
Mhm.
Um, can you just explain to our audience, what that role means, and
Yeah.
just some of the things that Blue Star Family Organization does for military families?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, in 2019, I was laid off from the position I was at the time, and my good friend Jeremy, who I just met 3 weeks before, he stopped me from taking a position because I thought I had to have a job. He's like, "Hold on, Jerry, what are you doing? Let's pause. You don't have to take a job just because you feel you need a job. You have other options." And I still to this day thank him for that. Because if he wouldn't have stopped me, I wouldn't be at Blue Star Families today. I took my time, and I said I worked really hard. I had just defended my dissertation, and I worked really hard to lay the foundation for the things that I knew were important to me, and that was serving the military community and serving military families and advocating on their behalf. And my dissertation is about educating the civilian community on the challenges that we go through, and why it's important to understand our uniqueness. And that's why I told my story. And Blue Star Families is that. I remember it was on Sunday morning. I was sitting having my coffee and I was scrolling thinking, okay, where can I apply to now?
Right.
I had just had like 3 other interviews. Nobody had hired me. I know now that those were preparing me for what I was about to embark on. I found the opportunity to apply for the chapter director at Blue Star Families. I immediately started digging in who is Blue Star Families, and then I read their mission, which was about aligning and educating the civilian community and bringing and strengthening the community by helping our civilian neighbors understand military families. And I started thinking, oh my gosh, I used their military family lifestyle survey in some of my papers. And this is so weird, right? And I was like, this is where I need to be. And I was like, that's everything I worked for. And so I applied, and I so funny. I had to take I think it was my daughter to the Cleveland Clinic for her POTS syndrome. And I literally did my last interview in the middle of the cafeteria. So, it was meant to be, right?
Yeah.
Here I am in the middle of the Cleveland Clinic with doctors, nurses, eating cookies, and I had my headphones in and I'm doing this interview. Trying to keep my composure and hoping that no one hears all these chaos beside me. But yeah, it was the best thing in the world, and I get to serve families. I get to give them an avenue to share their voice. I get to help educate the civilian community on why it's important to support our families, but at the same time I get to empower our families through our programming. And I get to take them to like the Dayton Dragons game. I got to take them to the Dayton Dragons game. I got to serve lunch to 50 National Guard service members a couple weeks ago, and watch them just with the utmost excitement when they came in. I was like, wow, Red Robin, instead of an MRE, they got to eat Red Robin.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, it's really the best position that anyone like myself could ask for, because I get to empower these families through our programs, put smiles on their faces, let them forget about the challenges that they're facing. And there are challenges. Our military family lifestyle survey, they tell us what those are, whether it's spouse unemployment or financial concerns, which those 2 things are always at the top of our list every year. Child access to childcare, feeling a sense of belonging in their community. These are all things that are at the top of the list every year, and I get to help alleviate some of that. So it's rewarding.
And just for our audience, where can they find out more information on Blue Star Families if they're interested?
Yeah, great question. So you can go to bluestarfam.org, and all you have to do is click in the upper right hand corner the join button. Our research is there. Information on our programs are there, such as like Blue Star Books and Blue Star Museums, Blue Star Summer. All those things are coming up. And membership is free, and you get a lot of perks with being a Blue Star family member. So those are all listed on there. And just this week, our military spouses are enjoying chances to win some really cool prizes, because it's Military Appreciation Day on Friday. So
Okay.
we do a lot of things to place smiles on the faces of our families.
Awesome. It's awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah. It's an honor. It's an honor.
All right. So, Dr. Maples, before we go to our second segment of the podcast here, what's one thing you want our listeners and our viewers to take away from this episode?
Yeah, I would say, just know that there's folks out there who understand what you're going through, that you're not alone, no matter if you're an active duty spouse or a caregiver. there's resources out there to help you if you if you need assistance in all different kinds of areas. Just know that you're not alone, and that there's a whole big community out there who does care and wants to help you in any way that you feel you might need help. You know, I we're one big community. I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing is no matter where you are, if you're, you know, overseas or here at home, or, in a rural area or in a big, place like Cincinnati or Dayton, there's things out there that you can get involved in, and be part of the community. So just, you're not alone.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think that's what's great about the military community, right? There's programs, organizations such as the Blue Star Family that are here to help in any way they can with military families. Whereas before, all these programs and organizations didn't exist.
Yeah.
I think nowadays there's just so many out there that can help you in any way that you need.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You asked me earlier about my National Guard time at my National Guard, and whenever my husband would go to AT, I'd always go to his parents' house. I was afraid to live at home for 2 weeks, so I would pack up me and the kids, and I'd go to his parents' house, and I'd sleep on their pull-out sofa. Because I didn't want to be alone, right?
Right.
I didn't want to be alone. The first time he ever went to AT after we got married, I drove his this is one of those funny stories. I drove his dad's truck to go pick him up, and it was this big long road, and I remember turning, it was a stick shift, and I remember turning left and going up this big long road, and the clutch went out,
Mm.
and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in fifth gear, what am I gonna do? And I'm like, please don't. There was like a couple red lights. I'm like, please don't turn green, or please don't turn red, stay green, please turn red, don't turn red. I get all the way up to the very last one, it turns red, and just by the grace of God, there was a campus. It was Miami University campus right in front of me, and there was a campus police officer right next to me, and I started blowing my horn, getting his attention. I'm like, please help me. And at this time, there was like no cell phones, so he had
Oh
to
wow.
call his parents and help me get over to the park. Like, it was terrible. I get to pick up Robert, and everybody left him. Everybody left him, and he was sitting on his big duffel bag waiting
Mm.
for me.
He was the only one there.
He was the only one there after 18 days.
Wow.
But it the funny thing is, you know, at the time it was, we like, how could you leave me stranded here? To a funny, hilarious story.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but that was just another National Guard story, right? That
Yeah,
that we have to hold memory to
yeah,
for the
yeah.
rest of our lives. So,
Good to look back to how
yes,
far you guys
yes,
come.
yes, we've come a long way since I left him.
Yeah,
Stranded.
yeah. All right, so Dr. Maple, so second segment of the podcast here. So this is what I call the Fast Five. These are the same five questions asked all my guests. Are you ready?
Okay. Ready.
All right, first question. What's one hobby you enjoy?
Listening to music.
Any specific? Oh, you did mention John Mayer, and
John Mayer, Rob Thomas.
yeah,
Lately, the Killers.
yeah, yeah. Next question. If you had to choose one person to hang out with for one day, who would it be and why?
Ronald Reagan.
Mm,
I would say because he made Military Spouse Appreciation Day in 1984. And he was from my hometown where I grew up, nearby. And I would just love to pick his brain.
Okay. Next question. Recommend a book for our audience to read.
Oh gosh, that'd have to be my book. Definitely.
Besides your book, what else?
Um, oh my gosh. I would have to say Matthew McConaughey's book. Um,
Oh, the
he wrote about his, and I haven't finished the whole thing, but he's wrote about one of the things I love about his book is he wrote post-it notes to himself for years, and he goes back and reflects on those.
yeah.
And
What
I still have to finish reading his book, but yeah.
what was it called? The green something. Green,
Yeah, I have it right here. It is Green Light.
green light. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. What's your favorite quote and why?
I would have to say that would be my own quote. There's opportunity in every setback. And that's
Oh
because
yeah.
I would say that because in life we're going to go through setbacks, and it's it's gonna happen. But try to find something positive that comes out of it. There's got to be something positive that comes out of every setback.
Yeah, that's a great quote. There's opportunity in every setback. Um, and then finally, where do you see yourself in 5 years or even 10 years from now?
Um, I would say I don't know. Um, and I'm just being honest. I don't know. I hope to continue serving military families, um, and really just helping to continue inspiring our future leaders in the classroom. Through Miami University. Um, I honestly have the absolute best job in all the world. And I'm blessed to be able to have the opportunity to do both. Um, and really just keep inspiring and helping those future military spouses by letting them know that these things can possibly happen, but if you try your best to prepare ahead of time, then you'll be able to cope with them. And the military life is I had no idea what Robert was gonna experience going to
Yeah.
Iraq. I had no idea. And the husband that left is not the husband that came back. Um, but I wasn't prepared, and
Right.
so if you educate military spouses on the things that possibly can happen, and you give them the tools ahead of time to prepare in case that does happen, then you're giving them the tools to help cope with that. And let's hope that never does happen. But if it does, they're prepared.
Yes. Do you have your own, you mentioned about military caregivers. Do you have your own like community, like Facebook group or like things like that? How do you guys keep
Yeah.
in touch with each other?
Yeah, so the Elizabeth Dole Foundation has the Hidden Helper, or I'm sorry, we'll scratch that answer. Has the Hidden Heroes Caregiver page.
Okay.
It's a private group, and we're able to chat on there. But I also want to point out too that Blue Star Families has a phenomenal caregiver program that Vicky on our team heads up, and she is absolutely amazing. I cannot say enough about her and the job that she does. She does caregiver cohorts,
Okay.
and caregivers can participate in those cohorts. Um, and what she does is she gives them a space to connect to each other, and when you do that, you have friends for life, right? And then also every VA care center in the country, or I believe every one of them does, or a majority of them does, have the caregiver program. And you can be involved in those caregiver programs. Here at the Dayton VA, at the one I'm involved in, we have a small community of caregivers, and are able to communicate and stay connected with each other. So there's all different kinds of forums to get involved. And there's a lot of organizations out there that have these types of outlets. The Rosalind Carter Institute. They have a phenomenal program that helps caregivers mentor caregivers. And so, there's lots of opportunities out there for caregivers to um, just get involved with each other and you know we are a very tight knit community because we know what it's like to navigate this life that oftentimes sends us curveballs,
Yeah.
and we have to find ways around them.
Yeah, so I just want to mention quickly what you just said. So every VA or most of the VA should have caregiver programs that military
Yeah.
caregivers can reach out to. And then you also mentioned the Hidden Heroes with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation,
Yes.
and also with your organization Blue Star Family with their
Mhm.
caregiver program if they want
Yeah.
to reach out to you all for that. Um,
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Maples, I appreciate the time. Thank you for sharing your story, your experience as a military caregiver with your husband, and just salute to you for all that you're doing, not just as a military caregiver, but also helping other caregivers to connect and to just support them in their journey. Um,
Yeah.
where can they follow you and where can they support you?
Yeah. So I have a page on Facebook.
Okay.
It's Dr. Geri Lynn Maples, and they can find that there. Also on LinkedIn, as well. I I think it's called I think it's LinkedIn. Geri Lynn Maples, I believe, is my LinkedIn page. And I do have I haven't written lately, but I do have my blog, which I'm a little behind. Some people are probably like, why is Geri not entered in her blog lately? But I promise to get back to that. But my schedule's been a little hectic.
Yeah.
But I do have my blog that I put on my Facebook page, usually on Fridays. So there's some past ones on there. I promise I'll get back to entering that blog weekly. It's just been a little chaotic lately. But just coming out of the month of April was the month of the military child, so I had lots on my plate, and just personal things like Robert's appointments and some
Yeah.
some things he's going through. So I promise I'll get caught up, but I love to do the weekly blog and things like that. So all that is posted on both my LinkedIn and my Facebook professional page.
Awesome, awesome. Again, just if you want to reach out to Dr. Maples, go to her Facebook page, and then also connect with her on LinkedIn. And then for those interested in learning more about the Blue Star family, make sure you go check that out as well. Dr. Maples, again, thank you for your time and sharing your story, and look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Take care.
Thank you.